G'day Makita fans and welcome to another Tools and Stuff Makita update. I'm not going to ramble on too much at the beginning of this one. We're going to get straight into it. I'll just say first, if this is your first time here and you're into Makita stuff, you want to be the first to know about things, you want to see reviews of all the new Makita tools, then what's that on my finger? Who cares what it is? Go down there, hit the subscribe button, and let's get on with it. First up, we have the 40 volt Scarifier. So this is the XGT Scarifier. It takes two batteries. It's not an 80 volt tool though, it's a 40 volt tool. It has the two battery bays so that you get more runtime, uses up one battery, then jumps over to the second one. It has two different rollers that can fit in the bottom. You've got one with the blades, as you can see on the left of screen, and on the right of screen you've got a dethatching one. So the one on the left will cut the roots of your grass and aerate the soil and stuff, churns it up a little bit, cuts grooves, whereas the one on the right basically takes all the dead material, all the little bits of dead grass and cut grass that have fallen, and helps air and oxygen get back down to the soil. It's got plenty of adjustments for the height, and the handles fold down so the whole thing folds up into a small little area. And this tool is being rolled out currently in Europe and presumably will make it to most of the world shortly and thereafter. Next up we have another pruner. Now a lot of you will remember the 12 volt pruner that I did not so long ago, and the CXT battery goes straight onto the bottom of that tool. Well, this one, the 18 volt version, the DUP180, is a little bit different. It's more like the original DUP360 that Makita released years and years and years ago. The first probably cordless pruner around. It's been out for, I don't know, more than 10 years I think. And it was kind of odd because it had a cord from the tool to the batteries. So you wore a little backpack or a pouch around your waist with two batteries in and a cord going to the actual tool. It was designed primarily for orchard owners and vineyards and that sort of thing, where you're trimming hundreds and hundreds of things all day and you want a lightweight tool in your hand, and so you wear the batteries on your person. And they've decided to go with that with the 18 volt version, which I think is a little bit of a surprise because, wow, everyone else has put the battery directly on the tool. Lots of tool companies make these now. DeWalt, AEG, Ryobi, Milwaukee, you name it, everybody seems to have one. And everybody's released them at pretty close proximity to each other too, very recently. But this one is the only one where you have the battery separate to the tool. So you can clip the battery onto your belt, and then you've got the lightweight tool. The tool weighs less than 700 grams, so pretty light in the hand if you're going to be using it all day. 700 grams is not going to be an issue. If you had the battery on that, conceivably that would be 700 grams plus the weight of a battery, looking at about another 600 grams, so that's getting up to 1.3 kgs, plus the tool would have to be slightly different, you know. You're saving 600 grams roughly, but you do have the annoyance of a cord. Personally, for what I would use it for, I mean, I use these things every day. I've got several of them and they're super handy things, and you can use them for not just cutting branches and stuff either, but I mean you can use them for cutting plastic pipe and all sorts of shit. You can even use them for cutting cable. They cut through a surprisingly large amount of stuff. We had a steel handled broom that I wanted to get rid of recently, and I just diced it up with one of those. I chopped up a gazebo with one day. They're pretty brutal things. So yeah, I would have preferred the battery directly on the tool, but they're going for that orchard style market again, I guess, as they did even with the 12 volt version. If you've seen the price and the quality of the tool and the way they've designed it, it's more along the lines of the production tools that Makita do. So it's got different ways of screwing it together. It doesn't have any TPE overmolding. It's just a plain basic good solid tool. Now this new one has more features than the 12 volt and the 36 volt in that you can have more settings. There's 4 settings, I can't remember what they all are. It'll be up on the screen there somewhere. 10mm is the lowest, 30mm is the highest, and a couple in between. Right, so both of those tools exist, we know they are around. Now we're going to look at some tools that aren't quite tools yet. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean patents. We're going to look at a belt sander patent first. Recently, a lot of tool companies have brought out belt sanders. We've got DeWalt, Milwaukee, AEG and Ryobi have both got one, Hikoki, Metabo, HPT. So it was only a matter of time until Makita had one. Or is that two? Because there's the possibility that this will come out in both LXT and XGT. Which will come out first, I don't know. But judging by the patent, it looks like they're working on both. If we take a look at this image here, you'll see that the battery is mounted on top, which is quite a good idea because it puts the weight of the battery in a usable position for you. Pushing down on the belt means you don't have to push down so much rather than having it hanging on the back. Also means you can get the handle down lower, and not having it hanging off the back or hanging off the side means you can get closer to walls and that sort of thing. From the image you can also see that the tool has AWS, and it has a rather interesting looking dust collector instead of just being a fabric bag like so many are. This one is a hard plastic box with a couple of different ports coming in and out of it for sucking air in and sucking through dust. It seems to have a filter section as well, and you can also see in this shot that the handle is movable through quite a range of motion. So hopefully that is not too far away in both 18 and 40 volt variations. Next up we have a sweeper. That's right, a sweeper. So this thing you would use outside for sweeping up large amounts of leaves. You have a bag on the back like you do with your mower, and you suck up leaves with it. These things are often used a lot around schools and places with large car parks and things like that, where you need to just sweep up a bunch of leaves pretty quickly and quietly rather than blow them all around with a blower. So there's also been a lot of chainsaw patents released recently. Now when it comes to patents, they don't give you a lot of details on grunt and RPM and all that sort of stuff that we want to know, all those sort of figures. They're very vague in those sort of departments. They just have a whole lot of gobbledygook explaining what a tool might do. So we don't know if this is going to be a 50cc model or a 60cc or whatever. You know, there's no way of knowing just by looking at the pictures, but they do give some ideas if you know what you're looking at. And so I'll just leave the pictures up here for you to look at before we go on to a dolly. That's right, a dolly. So this is basically a three-wheeled wheelbarrow, isn't it? Haven't Makita already released this? But this patent was only filed in like about March this year, I think that one was. So it's a bit strange that they're releasing something else with that design when they've already released a four-wheeled wheelbarrow earlier in the year. But maybe it's because this one's going to be a 40 volt and we haven't had any of them been 40 volt yet. They've all been LXT versions. So yeah, who knows. There's also another patent, must have had a few adjustments, on a 1-inch impact driver. So this beast that you see on screen now, I've shown you this before, but this is actually a separate patent. I haven't delved too deeply into it to see what's different about it, but presumably, seeing as they've put out a few patents on this now, it's hopefully not too far away. And then last, but most certainly not least, probably the reason you were here, because there's a good chance I stuck this on the thumbnail. And if you're a regular to the channel, boy oh boy, have we had some fun with nail guns, eh? So on the screen I'm going to put two photos. No, I'm not. I'm going to stick two patents. You guessed it. A framing nailer. Now calm down, don't get too excited, because this is just a patent, remember, and there has been quite a few patents to do with Makita and framing nailers over the past probably nearly a decade now. So I wouldn't read too much into it just yet, but the more they put out, the closer they must be getting to actually releasing an actual tool, right? So one of these patents was from the end of 21 and the other was from the end of 22. So the framing nailer was not too long ago, end of 22, I do believe. So maybe. I'll put the pictures up here on the screen for you to look at. I'm not going to go into too many details. I'm not going to get too excited about it because, as you know, so many times. So thanks for watching. What do you think about this Makita? This has TP overmolding that is teal colored. Ooh, that's pretty nifty, eh? And what's that tiny little battery? And if you haven't already seen my video on this battery, the new high output Makita 4 amp hour battery, see, it's a bit different to that one. This one has a bit more oomph. If you want to check out that video, it'll be up in the top corner and down in the description. Thank you for watching. Please consider hitting that like button, subscribe, yada yada yada. There's Patreon down there too if you want it. Makita, yada yada yada. Cheers, see you later. It's primarily used by people with large car bing, 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 bing.